Hey everybody, good Thursday morning. It's First Warn Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Brad Benner. It's about 11:30 when I'm recording this. We're talking about the winter weather that could head our way this weekend. And let me lay this clearly out there. This is not going to be a big storm, okay? This is not going to be December. There's not going to be crazy amounts. In fact, I think there's going to be a very small area that actually could get us a winter storm warning, and that's mainly in the mountains and maybe the adjacent foothills. But overall, the trend in the guidance has been much further north and much weaker storm with less precipitation. So if you get caught up in this snow word and think it's going to snow everywhere, you're going to be disappointed because there's likely going to be little to no snow east of the mountains. Let me show you what's going on. So here we are, as of today, our storm system beginning to take shape here across Texas. Now, the reason this storm is actually going to be kind of a weak storm for us is the track is pretty far north. In fact, it seems to be trending north. Now, there's plenty of cold air. We've got the cold air in place, but what we don't have with this system is a favorable track for winter weather. If you're a winter weather fan, you would love to see a track down in here with all this cold air in place. What's happening is we've got the cold air in place, but the track is probably going to be somewhere up in here. That's a very wet flow. So we'll go through tonight and go into your Friday morning. Again, you can see the timeline right over here. When it says model, that's what you're looking at. You can see the storm system by tomorrow morning, so this is the 11th. You could see it taking shape across the middle of the country. Notice where the low is. The low is like in here, not down here. In fact, the trend has been for this to keep creeping north, which then brings in the warm nose, we call it. It's warm air coming in from the south. So we'll go through Friday. No issues Friday. We're going to end up with 7 consecutive days without rain in Charlotte and most of the Carolinas, which will be the first time since really November we've had a stretch like that. As we get towards early Saturday morning, we're talking 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, we start to see some precipitation movement. Now, I'm not buying this as being rain. This is likely going to be some light snow in the mountains. This is likely not going to reach the ground. Now, the reason the models are struggling with this is we're going to have dry air in place. So as the moisture falls into the dry air, it evaporates and cools it down. We call it wet bulbing. And this is likely going to help produce this as snow or sleet. So we're likely going to see snow or sleet. But then we get into some drier weather here. And what happens is we kind of get dry slotted. A dry slot is a pocket of dry air in the mid-levels that comes up, and all the moisture gets shoved to the north. So this is why even if it snows a little bit, early Saturday, it's likely going to be pretty light. And I do think it will be a snow or sleet mix because of that evaporative cooling, we call it, or dynamic cooling is another term you might hear referred to. So as we go through the day on Saturday, it looks like the mix starts to develop. Now, this could be a little bit of ice, but I think it's mainly going to be sleet, snow, and rain because the surface temperatures are likely going to hover just above the freezing mark. But you can kind of see as we go into early Sunday morning, things kind of changing back to rain across the Piedmont. And you can see the snow right in there developing across the mountains. So if we're going to see snow accumulation, it's going to be there. And then as we go into Sunday afternoon, everything kind of dries out. And then we see a secondary wave of moisture come through. So the potential is there that we could see a little bit of snow on the back side of this. But overall, you're not looking at a really big event. This is going to be just puny amounts of snow because of all the mixing. Now, how much are we talking about? Well, we're probably talking about trace amounts. But if you look at the probabilities of seeing 1 inch of snow, around Charlotte, you'll be greatly disappointed. It's only about 1 to 5%. The area that has the highest chance of seeing accumulation is right in here. And that's pretty much where we've been looking most of this week. Now, if I go out to 72 hours and show you the 2-inch probabilities of seeing 2 inches, this really hits home on where you should be looking for accumulating snows. I'm going to put the state boundaries on here. It's basically across Avery, Ashe, and Watauga counties. The area in blue to dark green, maybe down to Lenoir, northern parts of Alexander County, up towards Caldwell County and Wilkes County, Allegheny County. This is the area. Down here, folks, it ain't happening. Now, it doesn't mean we're not going to see snow physically fall from the sky, but there's a very high likelihood that it's just going to fall and melt on the way down or mix with sleet and rain and never really accumulate. Could we see trace amounts? Certainly we could see trace amounts of snow, but do not get excited for this storm because it has all the makings of being a more Ohio Valley storm system. And I'll just show you real quickly some of the watches and warnings in place already. You can see where the first winter storm watches are up. They're up here up in parts of Missouri and Illinois. So the main snow axis is probably going to be up in this range. And so that's why you're looking at totals up in that area, probably a little bit more in the way of snow. As you get further south, you're looking at more just of a rain event. So as we start to look at some of the model accumulations, you can see most of it's confined to the mountains and foothills up in here. But haven't updated my snowfall map yet, which I'll have out later today. But I think you get the idea that this is primarily going to be a mountain event and maybe adjacent foothills. The Piedmont, I think, is primarily going to miss out on this. Now, again, I should emphasize the fact that we're probably going to see some snow physically falling from the sky, even over the Charlotte area, but it's likely going to be melting on the way down. This warm nose aloft is really what's going to kill things. And what that is, it's warm air up there around 5,000 feet. So I'm going to have my updated forecast map, the first one actually coming up today at 4, 5, and 6. So if you tune in today to NBC Charlotte, I'll have my first call map. And really, I do this about 72 hours out, because that's about where we are. This is really going to happen Saturday night into Sunday morning. So the snow could start as soon as Saturday afternoon, but it's not going to accumulate much. And again, I need to emphasize, this is not going to be a big storm. And if you're in the Charlotte area, stop freaking out. Stop buying bread and milk. This is not that type of event in the mountains. This is just a typical winter storm, which is exactly what we need to get the ski season kicked back into gear. So coming up today at 4, 5, and 6, I'll have your first snowfall map, and we'll update that snow meter as we get you ready for this week little storm that's going to mainly pass to our north.